Self-development is broken. Now, what we normally think about self-development, it's great, you definitely should be doing it, but you'll find out very quickly that it only has a certain shelf life to it. There's a certain limitation and a certain plateau you will eventually reach. That's because as a model, it's very limited and it's kind of like an incomplete map. It's a map that doesn't contain all the details. It might be missing some very important features. Now, what is self-development? Normally we talk about self-development in terms of different pillars of your life. You have your health, your wealth, your relationship, and maybe a higher purpose. The problem is there's no real connective tissue between them. And that's what we're gonna fix in this video. If you don't know, my name is Nick. I help people find purpose, freedom, and power in the modern world because I'm tired of seeing guys who are struggling, who are trying to figure out what's going on, and there's only, these partial sources of information that you have to sift through. So what I try to do is I try to bring together different schools of thoughts to actually help people get what they want in life. So if that sounds like something that interests you, please stick around. So again, self-development tends to be broken. It's this partial sort of map that doesn't really get the whole picture. Now, again, you tend to have like wealth, health, relationships, purpose, but how do these all fit together? At best, they don't interfere with one another, but usually that's not the case, right? If you have an abundant social life, it's also very difficult to spend time at work, spend time in your career, spend time on health. So, what you need instead is something I'd like to call alignment, and that's the focus of this video. And rather than looking at these pillars, I think there's a much better model to understand how people develop, how they can grow and actually thrive. This is also known as the integral theory of psychology. But before we get out to that, I want to talk about this important notion of vibe, and that's really what this comes down to. Because whenever you are misaligned, your vibe is going to be off. And what exactly does that look like? Well, your perception is narrow, right? You're only seeing certain things. Your creativity drops. There's lots of things you're not thinking about. You're fatigued. You're missing opportunities. You're also just kind of rubbing people the wrong way, right? Something seems off about you. Your energy just doesn't match, if that makes sense. You might have, a great body, but you're poor. Or you might meditate a lot, but you live in a rat's nest. Or you might make a lot of money, but your relationships suck. That question mark that you kind of leave out in the air, it's kind of like, well, if this guy is really so successful in finance, why doesn't he have good relationships? If he drives the nice car, why is he so unlucky in love? It creates a sort of impression that actually you're not all with it. And I'm not saying that you have to, max out every single area of your life. That's great if you can. If you can, become a millionaire with a great body and have your harem or your family life, whatever you want, and also your higher purpose, by all means. But just trying to do all of that at the same time without any clear roadmap, without any clear intent, is going to be difficult. So here's what I'd like you to focus on instead. This is known as integral theory. It looks at your life in terms of 4 quadrants. There's the inner individual quadrant, the outer individual quadrant, the inner collective quadrant, and the outer collective quadrant. Now, the first one, inner individual, this is your subjective internal experience. It's things like your thoughts, your emotions, your behavior loops, these sorts of things. It's your mindset, your own opinion of yourself, your beliefs. It's the way that you express your intelligence, these sorts of things. And it's also your relationship to your meaning and purpose. Like, what do you believe you are doing here on this planet? Now, if Now, if you're underdeveloped in this area, if you just have like a poor internal individual life, you're going to be highly reactive. Your emotions are going to be kind of on autopilot, directing your behavior in ways that you might not realize or might not want. You're going to lack clarity. You're going to be unconscious about a lot of your behavior. You're just going to be on autopilot, doing things that you might not want to be doing. Now, you can also be overdeveloped in this area. Now, if you are constantly in your head, you're constantly having all these insights, but not taking action, this is a sign that you have an overdeveloped inner individual quadrant. Same thing, if you are constantly circumspect, you're constantly thinking about all these great ideas, thinking about your own life, but the reality is it's kind of in chaos. Again, you are overdeveloped in this quadrant and you need to balance. So the other areas, like the outer individual area, this is things like your outer behaviors. It's your habits, your actions. It's the way you take care of your body, your hygiene, things like this, your sleep routine, nutrition routine, fitness routine. Now again, these are all important to have. You must have them, but it needs to be aligned with everything else. And when you're underdeveloped in this area, you'll see things like compulsive eating, a lack of fitness, a lack of behavioral discipline. People who are underdeveloped in this area tend to have chaotic behaviors. They're just simply not disciplined. Their behavior mismatches their intentions. They might be well intended. They might have the most beautiful, pure intentions in the world, but their habits have led them astray. Their actions don't match their words and their desires. But again, you can also be overdeveloped in this area, and a lot of people are. They might be physically impressive, but emotionally immature. Maybe they're disciplined, but they simply don't have a spark or any joy in their life. They can be high performing, but lack a real sense of meaning in their life and lack deeper connections and relationships. So again, we need to balance this. We need to align it with everything else. And the next quadrant is inner collective. This is your relationships. This is how you relate to other people, the way you communicate, the way you connect, your sense of empathy, the way you build with others, things beyond yourself. It includes things like your family, your friends, your cultural awareness, your relationship to the community. So again, you can be underdeveloped in this area, and a lot of people are in the modern age thanks to technology. Things like you have transactional relationships. It's very tit for tat, what are you doing for me sort of mentality. You might struggle with vulnerability, intimacy, just kind of struggle with interpersonal relationships. You might have conflicts very easily or feel like people are treating you unfairly. You might feel isolated despite knowing people. Despite your accomplishments, you might feel like you're very lonely. Now, this is not a good place to be in. Obviously, you want to develop this area in a way that's aligned with everything else. But as with everything else, you can also be overdeveloped in this area. You might prioritize social harmony over truth. You might lack boundaries or be a people pleaser, or you might be very relationally skilled. You might have an abundant social life, but absolutely no direction, no sense of purpose. And that's what you have to solve if that's this case. Lastly, we have our outer collective. This is the systemic environment, the infrastructure of your life. It's, the environment you find yourself in, your physical space, it's your workplace, it's your home, it's your bedroom, it's even your career and your financial structure. So it's this kind of organized processes that you're a part of. Now, again, this can be underdeveloped or overdeveloped. If it's underdeveloped, you might have a pretty shabby career. Your external environment is chaotic. You don't clean your room enough, as Jordan Peterson would say. Your financial literacy might be rather poor. You might be living paycheck to paycheck. You might not be able to save money, or you're in debt, even worse. You're always putting out fires, right? There's all these logistical issues that you're having to work around, and it's really making it difficult to maintain those other areas of your life just because the environment is working against you. Now, you can be overdeveloped in this area too. You might have perfected the systems, but they've essentially taken over the rest of your life. You have the nice house, you have the routine, but you feel empty, right? You're lacking relationships, your mindset is kind of barren, or on the other hand, you might have wealth, but very bad relationships. You could be organized, but have no purpose. So again, you can be underdeveloped or overdeveloped in all of these areas. Most importantly, though, it's not about maxing out each area. Rather, it's aligning each area. It's whenever all of these work together as a systemic whole, a holistic sort of unit, where you have a good vibe. Because when one of these things is working against the others, then that's when things are going to feel off. That's when people are going to say something isn't right. So I want you to understand this, that you don't necessarily have to max out every aspect of your life, but you do need them to work together for your purpose, for your goals. And you do need to make sure that one area isn't dragging down the other areas. You, like, for example, your inner collective, right? Your relationships. If deep down you want to be a healthy person with a deep spiritual meaning, but all of your friends are like barflies or going out on the weekends or, hanging out in the bathroom feeding their noses, then that's going to get in the way of all the other things you want in your life. So you either need to accept that and maybe arrange the rest of your life to fit in with that party lifestyle, or you need to cut that aspect out and replace it with better relationships, with people who are more aligned with your other aspects of your life. So again, self-development isn't necessarily about optimization. It's about alignment. It's about understanding which quadrants of your life are deficient and how you can improve them, but more importantly, how you can make them in alignment with everything else. Because really, this misalignment is going to cause you to lose energy. It's going to disrupt your vibe. Again, like if you have great relationships, a great mindset, a great set of behaviors, but your environment is messed up, then that's going to wear down on everything else. It's going to make it very difficult at the very least. Same thing, if you have perfect systems and environment, great communication skills, but then just a weird internal landscape, weird sets of beliefs, cynicism, negativity, these sorts of things, it's eventually going to affect everything else. So be very careful about that. And finally, you really need to understand that all of these quadrants have to support one another. And this sort of alignment is where you get a good vibe from. So I hope that makes sense. A lot of people, they talk about, looks maxing or location maxing or, fire in terms of finance and stuff like that, which is great. But you'll find that it's often incomplete, and that as people are doing it, they feel like they're missing out on everything else. Whereas if you focus on the quadrants of your life, if you focus simply on aligning them together, you'll be much more fulfilled, and you'll find you're not fighting against yourself. It's no longer you versus you, it's you and your purpose. So if you found this helpful, I would like to share this resource with you. It's a new book that I just released. It's called High Vibe Man. It's all about integral theory and how to actually raise your vibration, raise your consciousness so that you can have the sort of life that you want, and you can become the sort of person who is inspiring to others without that nagging self-doubt, without that, that negative self-beliefs or the negative environment or the lacking personal relationship skills, that sort of thing. So this is actually on sale for Black Friday, this week only. It's normally pretty reasonable, but this week it's a special sale. So get it today, and I will see you next time.